So the other day we were driving down a long dirt road with a bunch of little bumps and washboard and stuff, and I could hear a bad clattering, knocking kind of noise coming from the suspension on the 2018 Honda Accord. Figured it was something, a loose ball joint or tie rod end or some loose component in the suspension. So if you're interested, stay tuned. I'll show you what the culprit turned out to be and show you how I fixed it. So here we are on the front right wheel, and I'm just grabbing on the sides of it. And I don't know how easy that is to hear on the camera or not. Let me move you even a little bit closer, see if that makes it better audio-wise. But it makes a distinct rattling kind of sound, and when you do that, when you're grabbing the side of the wheel, it's usually indicative of a bad tie rod end. So let's zip off the wheel here. So then the question is, it certainly plays somewhere in the tie rod, but it could be the inner tie rod and inside of the boot, or it could be the outer tie rod end. And usually I seem to find that the outer tie rod ends are usually the ones that go. But just to be able to prove that, one thing I find helpful is to go in there and put a little bit of tension, just using a clamp on that joint. Let me zoom you out so you can see that a little bit better. So I'm just putting a clamp there and then tightening down just to put a little bit of pressure on and take up the slop that shouldn't be in that joint. Now if I go in there, now I don't feel any play at all. But if I I'm wondering, I've got you lined up right on the side of the outer ball joint. I'm wondering if you'll be able to see from that spot, if I don't knock the camera over, the play better. So yeah, I think from that vantage point, kind of shaking the whole car, so it's a little bit hard to see, but I think you can clearly see the play as the rubber flexes in that boot. Oops. All right, so anyway, I think that is pretty good evidence. It is in the outer tie rod end, so I'll replace that tie rod. So before you separate the outer joint, it's a good idea to break the lock nut free on the inside. Just makes it a little bit easier. So I'm using a Crowsfoot 24 millimeter, just on the end of a ratchet, to break that lock nut loose. Then we have to see if we can get out this cotter pin. It doesn't really matter since we're replacing the tie rod end anyway. If we have to just break this off, that would work fine too. See if we can get in there. See, it's wiggling a little bit. Sometimes I've found if I can get on them a little bit and then give a little tap, maybe the cotter pin comes out, like in that case it did. Other times it doesn't. Alright, then I should be able to get in there with a 19mm socket. Just crack that nut loose. Sounds silly, but I do find it helps a little bit if you wire brush the top a little bit, just to, if you get on that really rusted part, then sometimes the nut will get stuck on the ball a little bit and start turning the ball mechanism, and it makes it a little bit harder to get out. So maybe worth a couple seconds just to clean that bolt up a little bit. Probably wouldn't hurt to put a little penetrating oil on it, but seems like it's coming apart pretty easy. This has about 120,000 miles on it in 4 years up in New England, so in the rust and everything. But given all that, it seems to be coming apart pretty well. Okay, now since it proves that it can come all the way off and the threads are all okay, I'm just going to put it back on to catch it when I separate that, separate the joint there. So to use that, I'm going to use this, so to separate the joint, I'm going to use this OTC Ball Joint Separator. You could also just use a pickle fork or something if you wanted to at this point, especially since we're not going to be reusing it. I guess you can't quite see what's going on here. So I'm just applying some tension. Always makes you jump no matter how many times you do that, I think. Now you can take that nut off. Not sure if it's spinning the joint or not. Doesn't feel like it. Oops. Sorry about that. Just hit the camera. Alright, so since the amount of threads that you put the outer tie rod on with affects the toe end of the wheel, it's nice to get it kind of close to start. So a lot of people like to count the number of revolutions it takes to get the outer tie rod off. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 'So I counted 15 turns to get the old one off. All right, so now I'll just get in there and clean up the surfaces a little bit. All right, maybe just get make sure there's no rust in the hole there. All right, so here's the new tie rod end. It's a Honda OEM part. So put it on, 15 turns. It's 10, 11, 12. That's 15. Get that lined up. Push back up in place. Let's set the so according to Honda, the nut should be tightened to 54 Newton meters. All right, put in 54 Newton meters on the torque wrench. Close. Oh, there we go. So 54. All right, so then I'll just slip in a new cotter pin here. I think I'm just going to snip off a little bit of those ends because it's a lot longer than it needs to be. There we go. That's all set. And now on the inner nut, I'm going to leave that loose because I am going to do an alignment on it. If you guys are interested to see how I do a homemade alignment, then put some comments below, and I can make a short video of that if there's interest. Maybe I'll just temporarily tighten that up and then just prove that there's no play and kind of demonstrate that for you. I'll just snug that up a bit. By the way, the torque spec on that inner nut is 44 Newton meters, if you're interested in that. Okay, so now I've got you set up on the new tie rod end, and I think I can't sense don't see any play in that, and don't feel any play anymore, so I think that was a good call. So that's really all there is to replacing your outer tie rod end on a Honda Accord. Of course, after you do this, you do want to go get it aligned, because if the toe's out just a little bit, it really starts to eat up your tires. Something else. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have other suggestions on better ways to do this, or things I did wrong, or any kind of comments, I'd love to hear about it in the comment section. Thanks. All right, so it's all back together now, and the wheel's back on. It's all aligned, and now I don't sense any play at all when I wiggle the wheel. So it was indeed the outer tie rod end. I think I'll go take a ride down that dirt road and make sure it's nice and quiet.